Hey guys, it's Saturday the 10th of January 2026, which means tonight Jupiter is at opposition. It's the brightest it's going to be in the night sky. So I'm going to take out the 12-inch Dob and the C925 and see if we can't get some images of it. However, keep in mind in Australia, at the moment today, it's 39 degrees Celsius and it's due to reach 42 degrees Celsius. So I presume the seeing tonight is going to be absolutely horrendous. Hot, humid, turbulent air. I think the forecast is for midnight tonight, it's going to be about 35 degrees still. It's fairly hazy. We've had a few bushfires around. So while it is at opposition, I'm excited to see what we can get. I'm not holding my breath. Anyway, long story short, I bought a new 4X PowerMate to use with both the Dob and the C925, depending on what the seeing's like. If the seeing's awesome, it's going to make a massive difference to the detail. If the seeing's absolute crap, all it's going to do is amplify the blur. Anyway, we'll try it out and see how we go. So here's the PowerMate. It's a 4X PowerMate from Teleview, 2-inch, and it's got the 1.25-inch eyepiece adapter in the center. I actually bought this for the Quark Chromosphere. I've got the combo edition, so it doesn't have the telecentric barlow built into it. So I bought it to use with the Quark hydrogen alpha solar filter. But I thought, kill two birds with one stone, I'll get it for planetary imaging as well. It's a fairly heavy bit of gear as far as a barlow goes. It feels heavy, like it's good quality. Everything's really solid in it. So, yeah, I didn't think this was going to turn up in time, but luckily it turned up literally on the day of. So we'll give it a test run tonight, pending the seeing. Was it worth the 730 Australian dollars? We're going to find out, I suppose. But I'm looking forward to using this in a future video, like I said, for solar imaging with the Quark Chromosphere HA filter. So here I am setting the Dob up. Now this was actually the night before, and I made a bit of a foobar with the positioning. So you can see where I've set the platform, put the Dob in. I thought I'd have plenty of clearance. Turns out I ran into a fairly major snag. By the time Jupiter came out from behind the trees, my shed roof was in the way. So about midway through the night, I ended up having to move everything in the dark and shift it over to the left a little bit, just to get past the pitch of the roof. So just doing a quick collimation using the laser collimator. Obviously, you collimate it onto the dot on the primary mirror using the secondary mirror to start off with, then go to the back of the scope and move the primary to get the dot back into the center of the collimator. So moving the secondary mirror with the Allen key fittings on the front of it to try and get that laser pinpoint into the circle in the center of the primary mirror. It's just a matter of a bit of back and forth between the three screws to get it to move where you want to go. Get it dead center on the primary, and then you go back to the primary and basically adjust it until it's in the center of the laser collimator again. Usually a little bit of fiddly stuffing around, but it's not too bad. It's a lot easier to do this in the twilight hours when there's not too much sunlight, because it does affect the amount you can actually see the laser and the reflection off the mirrors and things like that. So, yeah, the collimation was actually pretty good. I think it may have shifted as the night went on. I did a little clip from Sharp Cap. I'll put it in here shortly just to show you the collimation. So this is the primary mirror getting adjusted now to get it centered in the, so that laser dot centers in the middle of the collimator piece on the target, which basically means that the two mirrors are aligned. So the laser's shooting onto the secondary, onto the primary, back onto itself and out onto the collimator. I will add that this is a little bit difficult to do one-handed while holding a camera to record what I'm doing. So this is on the 9th. This is the SV Bonnie 705C planetary camera, IMX 585 sensor, with a UV IR cut filter on the 12-inch dob. The alignment on the mount wasn't spectacular. It's moving around a fair bit. I have to keep recentering it, but this was just a sort of testing phase, getting ready for the big event. It's just disappeared out of the screen. This is the point where I took the camera out and removed the UV IR cut filter and replaced it with an infrared pass filter. So effectively imaging in infrared or near infrared. You can see, once I get it centered, the infrared removes the atmospheric wobble. Well, it's less affected by the atmospheric wobble. So you do tend to pick up a lot more detail on the surface of the planet. So here's the stacked RGB data and the stacked infrared data. And then, of course, the two combined in registacks and sharpened with wavelets. So setting up for the main event, finally the 10th of January, Juipter at opposition. Here I am setting up the C925 on the AZ EQ6 Pro mount. And the 925, I've got the ASI 585 MC Air camera connected to it. I don't use a Barlow with the scope. I was just running a UV IR cut filter, then the IR pass filter to gather the two lots of data. As you can see, true to form, Jupiter being at opposition, it looks extremely bright in the night sky. And if you notice the hot pixels all through the images, it's the heat on the sensor of the Sony camera. So here's the video file straight as it comes out of the ASI Air. And then I'll show you the next segment is after it's been put through PIP and the Bayer pattern's been recognised properly, so it adds more colour back to it. And then finally the stacked image after it's been through auto stack it and registacked. So at the native focal length of 2350 millimeters, there is a little bit of detail. It was a little bit underwhelming. And I know it wasn't an issue with collimation because I checked and rechecked multiple times throughout the night and recollimated on the moons just to make sure it was fairly precise and there was no mirror flop from the scope moving around. So the same Arvo, this is setting up the 12-inch dob. If you look directly behind me, you can see between the two peaks of the roofs, that's about where Jupiter's due to rise at around 9 o'clock. It will be low on the horizon, but eventually it will rise up higher into the sky. I did start shooting fairly early, but the heat from the day, the seeing didn't tend to improve much at all. So as you can see here, it follows a nice arc across the sky, so there was plenty of clearance to get good imaging. That's sitting at about, I think, 55, 60 degrees. But the weather was just horrendous. So I'm literally sitting outside
watching the big Dobsonian shooting Saturn. It's currently 20 past 12 in the morning. It'll be 12:20 a.m. and it's still registering 33 degrees Celsius. So you can understand why the seeing is absolutely shit tonight. It's stinking hot. It's fairly humid and it's getting very, very windy. Wish me luck.
And according to the astronomy seeing tools thing, the seeing should be below 1 arc second, but I've got to call bullshit.
So this is on the 12-inch Dob with the SV Bonnie 505 colour camera with the UV IR cut filter. It's just garbage. It's just a blurred mess. You can't really resolve much detail at all. It's probably the worst I've ever seen Jupiter since I've started imaging planets. The stacked image on its own, even after it's been sharpened with wavelets, looks fairly poor considering. Here's the the IR pass filter. That's the same thing. There's a little bit more detail, a little bit more clarity, but you can see the wobble. The heat was just horrendous, and I think there was just far too much turbulent air. And the wind picked up, so it was almost like the perfect storm. Unfortunately, it should have been the best night of the year to image it, but it turned out to be absolute garbage. So there's the stacked wavelet image of the IR pass. And now add into the mix the 4 times power mate from Teleview. And what looked like absolute garbage now looks like 4 times amplified absolute garbage. Yeah, so the Barlow was an absolute no-go. I think even a 2 times Barlow would have been pushing it because like I said, without a Barlow lens, it looked like absolute rubbish. So it was just a really, really bad night for imaging Jupiter. Same thing, here's the IR pass filter at the 4 times Barlow. You can register a little bit more detail with the IR pass. There's a little bit less atmospheric wobble in it. But yeah, it's not even worth stacking them together, I don't think, because I'm never going to get a good result from it. So yeah, lesson learned. In hindsight, I probably should have run the SC432M mono camera with the 9 micron size pixels. Probably would have resolved a lot more detail with the 4 times power mate and the higher f ratio. But for some reason, I did try it out on the Dob, but I just couldn't get it to communicate with Nina properly. There was having some sort of issue. I don't know.
So, all in all, not an overly successful night, but I was out there, I had the scopes out, and I was doing something that I enjoy. So, look, it's the old saying, yeah, try and try again. Hopefully next time with better seeing. I think the size of the 12-inch Dob, it's just a pain in the bum to drag it in and out all the time. A little bit disappointed with the results, but look, the other thing is I've got an ADC, an atmospheric dispersion corrector, but there's an issue with the Dob. It doesn't actually have enough inward travel on the focuser to use it, so I'm going to have to set it up, play around with it a bit more on a clear night and work out what Barlows I need to use with it, etc., to get it inward focus. Either that or I can actually, it is an extension tube, so we can adjust the amount of extension the tube has to push it further towards the mirror if need be. That's a fairly lengthy process, but either way, still got out there, still saw Jupiter in the sky, and yeah, next time hopefully I'll get some better results. But thanks for watching. Comment, let me know what you think, and feel free to share links to your photos because I'd love to see what everyone else got. In the meantime, clear skies.